The defending champ, Kevin Harrison, is looking for some serious momentum coming into the fifth and final round of the 2025 MRA Championship. But this competition has a decidedly northern flavor that may force the southerner to push the outer limits of his equipment to keep this honor stateside. Up next, the massive power is unleashed at Wagler Motorsports Park. From the cornfields of the Hoosier State, it's the final and fifth round of the 2025 MRA Championship Series. Today, the open class on the paddle tires, the bigger diggers, coming out to try to dig at this loam. And this has been an interesting track because there's no ripper here this weekend. There's a hard pan at the bottom of this thing. They're digging through that loam, and it's created some wild rides. And coming into this week's action, the guy who's trying to defend this championship, Kevin Harrison, he has some work to do. He went into the last round in Steelville, Missouri with the lead over Steve Renaud, but he lost that lead after this wild ride. Now, Travis Shoemaker, who moved up to fifth in the points last time out in Steelville, he will not be able to hang on to that fifth place most likely because he will not be in the field today. He lifted a blower last night in competition on the cut tires. But one of the biggest stories from this weekend so far, Billy Fling, the winner, the last time out in Steelville, Missouri on the paddle tires. He will not be running on the paddle tires this weekend because he went over the wall last night, crashed his car on the cut tires. Here's a look at that wild ride. Now, Fling did climb out and walk away under his own power, albeit dazed, but he did say to us before we left the property last night, I don't have too many more of those in me until I'm hiding my own Easter eggs, so figure that one out for yourselves. Here is a look at the championship points coming into this final day of action. Steve Renaud on top with 350 points, only 10 points over defending champ Kevin Harrison. Jim Ingram, who's not here this weekend, Billy Fling and Travis Shoemaker, third, fourth, and fifth will not be in the field to defend their position, so we will probably see a few move up before the end of the night, most likely. I don't see how we wouldn't, but we're going to bring our first pairing out, and a vehicle out of Canada coming into the near lane owned by Aaron Corbier out of Shigang, Ontario, going to be driven by a gentleman out of Wisconsin who built this machine, Shane Olrogi, doing the driving tonight on the scooper tires, and that is a massive Brad Anderson Hemi with an 1871 Darren Meyer blower and a Turbo 400 transmission, getting the power to those big back wheels, and he's going to line up against one of the Hoosier State's own, Greg Monsmith. Lesson learned out of Warsaw, Indiana, with 520 cubic inch Brad Anderson Hemi with an 1871 Roots blower on top. This guy has been a record holder in this sport before. Two very, very fast, capable drivers, two very quick machines. Monsmith may have a championship in him in the next year or so, as he's made some massive improvements on that machine over the off-season. We'll see how he ends up 2025, though. Not going to end it well. Problems for Monsmith. A 247 with a 4 for Olrogi. Monsmith has engine or maybe drivetrain issues. Something let go on that machine when he came off the line. And boy, the body language tells the tale as he thrusts the gloves up onto the dash bar there over the steering column. And a look at it again, you can see Olrogi getting a bite on the track. We'll see if those scoopers do help. It did help in the modified class. Last night we actually saw a modified vehicle, modified rear engine rail, set a record in that right lane where Monsmith was running right there, though. You see him set the front end down. It looks like he may have done some drivetrain damage on that run. We've seen it happen before. You can twist that drivetrain up real quick, putting all that horsepower under those rear tires. And a look at this track, you can see there's the loam they're running on top of. but it's not that deep. There's not a ton out there for these tires to necessarily get a hold of, but these scoopers have been able to dig their way down into some deeper dirt. However, this is a pulling track, so it gets real hard at the bottom real quick. Now as our next pairing rolls out, this gentleman out of Spring Grove, Illinois, we'll look at Steve Renaud first. We're looking at Paperboy Express there. Steve Renaud out of Hornpain, Ontario, the points leader right now, trying to stave off Kevin Harrison in the last race of the season. Would love to take that championship back to Canada. His crew chief, Gary Baker, and he's running a 526 cubic inch Noonan racing power plant, that Aussie horsepower. And next to him, the gentleman that I started talking about, this is Paul Wessinger and Scott Snarsky's Paperboy Express. There you see Scott, who drove this machine last night, had some problems with it, lining up Wessinger with that big Ford Boss 540 cubic inch engine with a 1-speed transmission and a 3-disc slipper clutch. 980R Whipple supercharger up on top of that machine. He was your 2016 Open Cuts champion, lined up next to the 17, 18, and 19 Open Cuts champion. So a good pairing right here. Pair of wild rides right there. I think they both let off before they wanted to. Wessinger, not a bad run at 238. Going to jump into the head of the class. A 281 for Renaud. Not what he was looking for, but he'll have another shot on the left side. Seems to be the place to be right now. Look at Wessinger getting a hold of that loam. He's able to get up on top, but he started skating right there. Had to back out just a little bit before the finish line. The question, though, was Renaud, whether or not he was going to go out of bounds. He very wisely let that thing settle down, didn't hit any cones, and he didn't hit timing equipment, most important. We've seen a little bit of that this weekend, and let me explain. If you hit timing, you hit cones, you're just going to get a DQ. If you hit timing equipment, you'll get a DQ, you will get a cash deduction, and you will get a points deduction, and you will not take the championship out of this weekend if you take a points deduction. Now is the defending champ, trying to make sure he doesn't do any of that. Kevin Harrison out of Grenada, Mississippi, with a 527 cubic inch screw-blown Noonan power plant in the back. We mentioned that Aussie horsepower, the Eric Bidlack built machine. He was your 22, 23, and 24 Open Paddle Class champion, and he also won the Open Cuts class in 22, 23, and 25. He lines up next to Paul Hahn out of St. Edward, Nebraska, in a vehicle that used to belong to the Harrison family. It's been through a couple of owners. We saw it for a couple of years under the ownership of Clayton Olcott, running the name Relentless. This is Chasing Trouble. Now a teammate to the Carrera family's machines that we'll see in the modified class before the end of the weekend on the cut tires. 2000 Chevy S10 with a 572 cubic inch big block Chevy power plant, 1471 high helix blower. Wild ride for Harrison, picked up the front end and twisted on him. Had to set it back down at 264 and an apparent red light on the far side of the track. You see Hahn burping the throttle there at the end of the track as he looks like, yeah, he left early for sure on that far side. You can see him lurch out before we even really had the replay going. Look at Harrison, though. Get up on that wheelie bar. Once you get on one tire, it is over with. And a very good piece of driving there to set that thing back down. We'll watch it again. Gets a hold of the loam on the top, but he starts skating real quick, gets on the wheelie bar, and once you unload the rear of that thing, those rear tires will start spinning, and once one bites, it'll carry you whichever direction the car wants to go. In this case, it started bringing him over to this left-hand side. Again, didn't get into the timing equipment, though, so he's safe going into the next session. He's just got to find that balance on that machine. As our next pair rolls into stage, Tyler Coolidge, who is currently sitting just outside of the top 5. He was number 5 rolling into Steelville, Missouri. Lost that to Travis Shoemaker. Doesn't have to worry about Shoemaker tonight, getting staged up by his father, Joel, out of Two Harbors, Minnesota. And lining up next to him, north of the border, the killer right here, Shane Nygam out of Kindersley, Saskatchewan, with a 521 cubic inch screw-blown Brad Anderson Hemi, capable of nearly 4,000 horsepower. This is Second Chance, and he did not come this far to lose, I can tell you that. He's playing a massive spoiler in this field, and the gentleman lining him up over there on the far side is none other than Mark Lee, not the guy spraying the de-icer into the butterflies, but the gentleman that was walking up to that vehicle is Mark Lee, who's been here before. Actually, he's been on his top. We'll tell you about that in a little bit. But let's see. Tyler Coolidge and Shane Nygam going after the money here tonight. Coolidge with problems. Nygam blasts down through there. A 207 with an 8. Will get him to the number 1 spot. A 246 for Coolidge with problems. Not bad. Here on the left lane. Watch again, though. Boy, Coolidge had a similar problem to... boy, they both came over to the left, but Coolidge had a similar problem to that of Kevin Harrison. Nygam got a hold of that track nice. He took a chance there coming all the way over to the middle, but it worked out for him. He was able to stay in line enough to not run over any cones, not any of the timing equipment. He'll move on to session 2 in good standing. See if he can hang on to that lead through a few more vehicles yet to run. But a wild one there. We said this track's been interesting this week, and now one we did not expect to see in the class, but hey, thought he might have a chance to get in the money with the shortened field. Our first time seeing this awesome truck on panels. Normally runs in the Outlaw Pro Stock division on the cuts. This is Will Harrison out of Grenada, Mississippi with a 512 cubic inch Brad Anderson Hemi with a 1471 Kobelco Roots Blower up on top of the billet injector hat, and your 2024 Outlaw Pro Stock champion, tied for the victory this year with Rick George in that class. And let's see what Will can do here against the open class. Not a bad run. The width and weight of that machine may have up a 237 with a 2 in this class is not too bad. It'll definitely seat him in good standing in the top 5 as we watch it again. Watch him come off the line. He's in those ruts. Everybody kind of running in that set of ruts. If you can stay kind of down in them, they'll keep you straight tracking all the way through to the end. But you start cross-rutting, it'll move around on you quick. That car will hop across the top of that loam. But that big Chevy C10 did a nice job here as we look at the top 5 going out of session 1. Shane Nygam leading the charge. A 237 for Will Harrison puts him in second place. Paul Wessinger in third with the 238. Tyler Coolidge and Shane Olrogi rounding out the top 5 for right now. And believe me, back in the pits, there's a lot of work going on. The gentleman in the number 1 spot, you can see they've done some damage in the Shane Nygam machine. They're going to be trying to get that fixed as they frantically work on that. We will talk to them in a little bit. They did not have time to talk to us, but we will check in on them when we come back to Lyons, Indiana, and the Wagler Motorsports Park as the MRA 2025 Championship continues with the open paddle tire class. Stay with us, more to come. The MRA Championship Series is brought to you by Speed Tech, Speed Wire Systems, Alki Digger, and George Grading and Hauling.
Hey, welcome to Wildman Adventures. We're at the Silver Lake Sand Dragway. There really wasn't any off-roading back then. It was all off-road. We're on our way to Lima, Ohio. Got wooden wheels.
Oh, it's slippery as all get out.
Hey, we're here with Rich Cummins. Hey, we're here with Mike Potter.
Hey, we're here with Alan Pizzo.
Gotta check it out. This week we're gonna go down memory lane.
Coming back at you from Wagler Motorsports Park in Lyons, Indiana with the 2025 MRA Championship Finals, the 5th and final round of the season. Rick George leading our Pro Stock division coming into these final round highlights. This is a class that ran a little bit earlier, and there were some interesting developments here as he battled with Sam Lombazio for the points championship. Those two were close. Lombazio had a shot at it. Things did not end the way we thought they would, but we're going to take you through the action. First with Trevor Latham out of Parkview, Iowa in this 2015 Chevy Colorado called Hammer Time. Walked across those ruts a little bit. He did line up in them. Watch the front wheels, though, moving around quite a bit. He's having to work to keep that thing back to the center of the track, not come too far to the left, found another set of ruts, and tracked his way to the end. A 298 with a 5. Not too bad considering the problems he did have in a truck that we've seen go as slow as the 3s. So it's good to see him getting in to the 2-second territory with that machine in spite of the problems he did have. Now, Sam Lombazio going after the championship from second place, lined up in the first session against Rick George in the Saturday Night Special, who's trying to hang on at this point to the number 1 spot. You're 1 and 2 in points. Problems for Rick George he could ill afford, and we're going to show it to you again here in a second, but he made a hard left-hand turn. Both of them coming to the left of their lane. You can see Lombazio getting a little shake over there to the left as well. That slowed him down a bit, but Rick George got cross-rutted bad. It looks like he got up on the wheelie bar, a 396 with a 1, not even close to what he would need. He was hoping to hang on to it by going faster in session 1 than the time that you just saw laid down by Sam Lombazio. Now, Todd Hackney and Fireball out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, lining up in those ruts that Trevor Latham lined up in here in the near lane. Beautiful run for Hackney here on the left side of the track as he was shooting at Lombazio, trying to play spoiler here this weekend with that 69 Scout with a 700 cubic inch big block Chevy power plant built by VZ Race Engines out of West Virginia. And a look at his time, a 286, so 0.05 of a second off the number 1 time that Lombazio laid down. Here is a look at the leaderboard after that first session as we get ready to show you the Session 2 highlights. And I mentioned there were some developments in this class that may have changed the whole complexity before the end of the night. We're going to tell you about that as they develop here in these highlights. But Sam Lombazio was leading the charge into Session 2, something he needed to do to try to get to the number 1 spot. Now, Todd Hackney in Fireball back at it, trying to play spoiler now out of the right lane. And to burp the throttle right there as he got over to the far right-hand side. No harm, no foul. Hurt the time a little bit, but he didn't even hit any cones. As you watch it again, he started going to his right. Everybody else seems to be coming to the left. He got way to the right. Didn't hit any timing equipment either. 291 for Hackney, so his first session time would stand. Now, here's where the development kicks in. Rick George had to make a backup pass in his Outlaw Pro Stock machine because he ran a record time in that class, trying to go for the win. He was supposed to be on the line in the right lane against Sam Lombazio. When he got to the end of the run, we found out that they had put Justin George in the truck to go ahead and make that second session run. He did run faster than Lombazio, but you cannot make a driver's change mid-race. Whoever registered the vehicle into the race has to be driving it, and unfortunately that meant that Rick George's time for that run would be unofficial. There was a disqualification, and that meant that Rick George would not gain any more points on this night, so he had to hope that he could stave off Lombazio, and Lombazio was leading the class. The lone hope would be his brother Randy George and Shag Nasty. Hopefully Randy could knock Lombazio down, and that's what we'd find out right here as he lines up against Trevor Latham in Hammer Time. You see the problem right there for Randy. It wasn't to be. Latham runs a 288, the 338 for Randy George. Not going to help that team at all. And here's the way it shook down at the end. The final points on the Pro Stock season, Rick George and Sam Lombazio tied for the number 1 spot here in 2025 because Justin George drove the vehicle here in the second session, and unfortunately that is where it left Rick George, and that's the second tie this season because Rick also tied for first with Will Harrison in the Outlaw Pro Stock division. We're not done though from here in Lyons. The second session of the open paddle class still to come. Stay with us.
world-famous C60 Cyclops, the infamous Dodge Carryall Unnamed and Untamed. Get yourself a one-of-a-kind toy of a Mudbogger Trim Monster Truck at freedomracingnt.com.
The MRA Championship Series is brought to you by Speed Tech, Speedwire Systems, Alki Digger, and George Grading and Hauling. The 2025 MRA Championship Finals coming at you right here at Back Channel Productions. The open class on the paddle tires continuing into session number 2. Shane Nygam leading the charge, but there's a question as to whether or not he'll make the line to defend that number 1 time, as he's got some heavy hitters coming after him. Will Harrison, Paul Wessinger, Tyler Coolidge, who's trying to move back up into the top 5. He's got a good shot at it here tonight. And Shane Olrogi and Aaron Corbier's Dirty Bomber round out the top 5. But there are 2 names you did not see there, and they're 2 guys that have to start making a move right now. That being your points leader, Steve Renaud in Frantic, and your second in points and defending champ, Kevin Harrison in Never Enough. Right now, Will Harrison, part of the Harrison family out of Mississippi, sitting second on the leaderboard right now, going after his second session time. 2-1-8 with a 9. What a run for Will Harrison, showing he can jump up and run with these big boys out here. Wonder if he'll do this next year. It's a good test for this vehicle as he hammered on it. Just skimming the front end right there. That was a near perfect run. There are some tuning regulations in that OPS class that prohibit some of the big power we normally see in this open class, but this machine is showing that it can jump up and make this run. As we take a look over into the Good to Go Racing pit area, they continue to do work on Nygam's machine, and we're going to see if we can catch up with him real quick. 207 puts you in the lead, but you guys are doing a lot of work back here.
Oh man, I couldn't have described the amount of work we've done over 2 weeks to be able to go run that number, and yeah, we're all pretty excited, and hopefully we can make a better lap on the next one.
Well, I will let you guys get back to work, because when we walked over here, you guys were hustling.
Oh, sorry, we didn't mean to shun you off, but yeah, when you're against the clock to get back up there, you got all hands on deck on this one.
All right. Well, Tyler Coolidge will be rolling to the line in a second. He may have a single, and I don't know if they're going to let Nygam run. He did some damage to the wheelie bar, the axles, he did a little drivetrain damage. They're hustling to get that thing back to the line. Coolidge is already on his way out. He waited as long as he could. I don't know that Nygam is going to make the call. Now, one of the people you saw back there working in the Good to Go Racing pits is the one and only Mark Lee. Mark Lee, no stranger to the wild rides taken in this sport, and he started a long time ago. Word is we might see Mark Lee again, and for those of you who don't remember who Mark Lee is but have followed this sport for a while, we're going to take you back to Noonan, Georgia, 1989, the first time Mark Lee appeared on television, and it was a wild night in Georgia.
Strictly business. Now this on here, it's got a Chevrolet engine in it. Now this Jeep body is also fiberglass. Now it doesn't look as elaborate as that last one. It's more of a stock style, and he does an excellent job coming through there. A lot of horsepower. It's got a nice straight run. 407 cubic inch Chevrolet motor in this, all fiberglass Jeep body. Running panel tires in the back. It gets the front end way up in here. Look, had a little problem there, Stan. He come across and hit that wall, and it flipped him right over.
Mark, what happened out there?
Well, it just got a little hairy and got on the wall a little bit, and the car just come up. Couldn't do nothing about it. Just one of those things, you know. It's part of racing.
First time you done it?
Well, I said earlier in the show, Mark's been on his top. You can see it's going to be interesting if he makes his comeback. I'm sure he'll never take a ride like that again, knock on wood. But Mark Lee, a fearless driver, be good to see him back next year. That is the word anyway, and hopefully he'll come out and run with the MRA. Now we see Tyler Coolidge back on the line in Nightmare 7 out of Two Harbors, Minnesota. 500 cubic inch Alan Johnson performance engine with a 1471 Whipple supercharger. Up on top, he was the 2020 points champion in this open panel class. Nightmare 7. Ready to have at it. The de-icer going on the blades. See if he can better that time, trying to move back up into the top 5. Big time problems on the run. He held on to it, a 223 with a 7 with a run like that, but something came apart on that machine when he set the front end back down. That was a hard hit. As he rolls to a stop in the end zone over there. Watch him again. He's going to pick up the front end. This vehicle will actually get airborne when he slams those front wheels down. He managed to avoid going out of bounds, but right there, It looks like the drivetrain may have come apart on him when he put the front end down. It picked up and it really zinged that thing on the top end of the track. But heads up driving for Coolidge, as he will likely move back into the top 5. Here's a guy where it's do or die time. Kevin Harrison rolling into the right-hand lane and rolling in against a vehicle familiar to his family. As I mentioned, Paul Hahn in Chasing Trouble. He red lit in the first session on the right side. He needs to make up for that here, being lined up by Daniel Carher, who will drive Looking for Trouble in the modified cut tire class. A little bit later also drives one of the super stock vehicles, the Troublemaker, full body Ford. Beautiful group of machines out of Nebraska, and they've added another one to the fleet with Paul Hahn driving this one in the open class and the Outlaw Pro Stock division. But lined up against the defending champ and the gentleman trying to get back on top of the board to defend that championship, Kevin Harrison and Never Enough. That is what he absolutely could not afford to have happen, and he may have just signed the ticket over to Steve Renaud, because I guarantee he just ran over timing lights. There is no way he did not hit the top end timer. Yep, you see it right there. The wire's stretched out. I see timing lights down. Cones are obviously down. Kevin Harrison comes across center track. And you see Daniel Carher headed out to pick up some pieces. I believe Greg Monsmith headed down that way. Travis Shoemaker out there and the rest of the crew. See Jamie Suter and Jason Chaya headed out that way. Man, a lot of work gonna put. Boy, look at that right there when he picked up the front end. It came to the left, and look at the front tires were headed that way as well. He may have had a steering problem. He had an issue here last night, and he just drove right down the center of that track and took out the timing lights. Fortunately, they have quick turnaround with that here anymore. That used to be a real ordeal, but they've got that down to a science. We're back going racing. Here comes Paul Wessinger, Paperboy Express. They won a race earlier this year on the cut tires in Steelville, Missouri. They would love to win one here on the paddle tires. That was Scott Snarsky driving at that time. Paul Wessinger been on the paddle tires all year long, and I know he would love to take a victory out of the last race of the season, lining up against the points leader and a guy who now has a really good shot to claim the 2025 championship. But he wants to go out a winner, if at all possible, on the actual night, that being Steve Renaud out of Hornpain, Ontario, with that Aussie-powered Frantic. Mentioned his crew chief, Gary Baker, the legendary Gary Baker, the founder of the NMRO many years ago. Always good to see Gary around. And we'll see. Either of these guys can better their times from Session 1. Riding the razor's edge right there was Renaud. See what the times were? 2:20 for Wessinger and a 2:12 for Renaud, doing what he had to do, and I do believe with that time it should cement him into the top 5, and that should have just sealed the championship for the gentleman out of Hornpain, Ontario. It was a legal run. Look at him going to the right. Could not afford to let off. Got a full throttle all the way down the track. Probably one of the better runs we've seen from him this season, because he has been working with struggling electrical equipment all year long, and he almost crashed that machine. Almost. He got tangled up with another racer. We're going to talk about that right now up at Shane Nygum's track in Kinderlee, Saskatchewan. But glad to see Steve back out here and running, and it looks like potentially, unofficially right now, but likely taking the championship here tonight, as you see Tyler Coolidge helping get Shane O'Rogie staged up in Aaron Corbier's Dirty Bomber. This machine out of Chigang, Ontario. Again, being driven by Shane, the chassis builder out of Wisconsin. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the town he's from, but we'll see. Shane O'Rogie last up. Can he take the class away from Nygum? Nygum continues to sit on top with a 2-0. That thing was rocking and rolling all the way down through there. At 2:21, not bad, but not going to do it on the night. Shane Nygum is your champion. Shane, first pass held up. Might have been a mixed blessing there. You didn't get to make your second pass after all the work, but the track was going away, so you might have saved yourself some trouble.
That's right. Man, I can't even describe what our team, the Good to Go Racing team's been through in the last week. We torched the block, torched ahead in Cook Station 2 weeks ago. We're 30 hours from home, and I'm going, how in the heck are we going to make that next race? So many stars fell in line. Sean Barber, his shop, rebuilt our motor. Jim Weens in Palmer's fuel team there did all the machining for us. My guys, I'm vibrating still, and I made my run 4 hours ago, and we came down here to win a race 30 hours from home, and I'm just tickled right now.
We were glad to see you back, because when we left you the last time, there was a big hole on one side of that motor. The whole open class, I mean, you weren't in the points, but the whole open class was chasing north of the border this week, because Steve was representing your side of the border, and then you came down and just drove it in that much deeper.
I'm so proud of Steve. You've never met a guy as classy as Steve Renaud. I'm really proud of his championship. He's fortunate. He's a heck of a lot closer than we are to be able to run the point series. I wish we could, but you can only go 30 hours so many times in a year, and we try to take care of business back home, run and support our own club with this Canadian Mud Racers organization, and it's an honor to be here and to go home with a win. That's what makes it all count,
115 miles an hour on a track that, the track crew here has been really working to try to get on par with you guys, because this is brand new for them. But 115 miles an hour into good shutdown, fortunately. But what is it like trying to keep the car in line on that track?
You know what? I was fourth pair in. That's never a comfy place to be. You draw the chip, you hope you're kind of middle of the pack, or you hope there's enough cars where you get a groom after 3. I drew a crappy chip, and I was nervous, but I trust Mark Lee. He's the best in the game. So fortunate he came. He's coming out with 2 real badass hot rods next year. I hope the guys down here are ready, because when he comes back, he means business. And he put me where he put me. We're a little unorthodox. It worked, and luckily it held up after not being able to make the second round. We worked for 2 hours. We broke the wheelie bar, broke the tire, damn near bent the thing in half because it was on it. We went 3.83 Gs on that track. It was impressive, and I was vibrating for about 2 hours after. It felt pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure not just from the run, but crossing ruts like that was probably putting a little shake in you too.
Oh, no doubt. I knew, I pulled in there and he said, "Come here." I'm like, "I gotta trust you," and I kind of pointed it a little bit to the left, and I was crossing ruts, and I knew I was through the laser, so I held her the whole way, and it held up. I'm pretty happy right now.
Well, it was good to see you come out in 24. It's been good to see you in 25, and I'm sure we will see you in 26 at least once or twice.
There's no doubt. It's every racer, competitor, fan, spectator, just incredible down here. The MRA is a total class act. It's so good to come race the best of the best. Even better to go home, a winner against some of these incredible guys. And one thing I want to say is we lost my dad in November. He was a legend of the sport up north, and I know he's twinkling up there somewhere going, "Good job, son."
We'll see you next year.
Thanks a lot. You bet you will.
Well, I did not mention earlier, and I apologize for this, but you saw it there in the interview. Shane and his crew had to do a ton of work after Steelville, but our congratulations to another Canadian, the champion, Steve Renaud. Steve, I don't know, anybody thought you were going to come down from north of the border and win a championship? Guy from north of the border took the win tonight, helped you a bit, but all of you guys were fighting through this weekend.
Oh, for sure. It was a rough weekend. It's the last pass, the fourth pass, was the only pass we actually stayed in the throttle the whole 200 feet. All the other passes we had to abort. It was either going left or right. It was a struggle this week.
He had a hard pan with a ton of ruts. Thick loam on the top, but you could break through it so fast. It was inconsistent. It's a new track. The crew here at Wagler was working their tails off trying to find it, and I'm sure they will by next year, but it's got to be tough to break in a new track at the end and then do it with that much gusto every run.
Absolutely, and everybody wants to do good. It's the last of the year, the finals. So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle for a new track, but they did a great job regardless, I think.
And I know it feels good for the MRA. I don't know if they're going to admit it yet, but it'll feel good for them next year. So they definitely have an international championship.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's the first time we've won the championship here in the U.S. No, we might have won the Cuts championship before, but either way, it feels good.
Yeah. And next year, what can we look forward to from next year?
Hopefully some smarter tuning on my part, but all in all, the car is going to be very similar. New panels, but otherwise very, very much the same.
And I didn't get a chance to tell you, we saw what happened to you up at Shane's race, so we were glad to see you come back from that. It's amazing you cannot tell that thing went through what it went through.
It was, it was a weird situation. Thank God the guys that Racing in the Dirt helped us out. Like 3 days turnaround, we fixed the whole car. And yeah, you're right, that doesn't even show.
Well, congratulations on 2025. Can't wait to see you go for the defense in 26.
Thank you very much.
Well, congratulations to Steve Renaud. Congratulations to our co-champions in the Pro Stock division. That'll be different next year in 2026, so keep an eye on that. But really a lot of Canadian pride coming down here and swiping it out of the South. So Kevin Harrison going to have to shoot for it again next year. Can't wait to see what should be an ultimately competitive season in 2026. We're not done, though. The Modifieds coming at you next time on the Cut Tires. We will see you then.